I've always drawn a lot of inspiration from the amazing work of the nature artist Andy Goldsworthy. I'm especially drawn to the geometric shapes that he creates with natural materials. A large-scale sphere out of branches is something I've been wanting to try for a while. When a hotel in Connecticut commissioned me for a sculpture project, I proposed the idea of the branch sphere and they loved it. Now all I had to do was figure out how to make the thing. I figured if I really wanted to make a statement with this giant twig ball I was embarking on, it had to resemble a perfect sphere as closely as possible. If it ended up just looking like a big pile of twigs, somewhat resembling a sphere, it would probably be pretty lame. To avoid making a giant yet totally lame twig ball, I figured making a large spherical frame would be a good place to start. The frame ribs were to be made up of around 100 short pieces of black locust, with a 4-foot radius cut on one side of each individual piece. I had recently completed this fence out of black locust and had plenty of leftover short-length boards. As far as cutting these 100 pieces, I could either do it on my bandsaw or ask the company in my building to cut them with their computerized CNC routing machine. After contemplating this difficult decision for about 30 seconds, I decided to go with the robotic option. After thanking the nice robot for cutting all those beautifully perfect curves, I got to work cutting a spline joint on the end of each piece. First slowly, and then really fast. As you can see, it would have taken a minute to cut all these on the bandsaw one by one. I connected the short curved pieces with splines and epoxy and tightened a ratchet strap around them to cinch everything tight while it dried. Once the epoxy cured, I left the equators of each globe half as continuous circles and stopped to pose for my Leonardo da Vinci portrait. Next, I cut up another set of circles into quarters and halves to serve as the ribs of the globe. Here are those half and quarter circles coming together to form the top half, and now the bottom half. That square hole will be explained later. Here's me trapped inside the globe frame, but don't worry, I was able to escape. Right about the time I was admiring my completed globe frame and making this super cool video of me playing basketball around it, the thought occurred to me that each half of this giant globe frame might have a hard time fitting through the annoyingly small door in the hallway of this shop. Probably should have checked that somehow before building the frame in the shop for a week. Turns out they have these things called tape measures that you can use to measure the size of an opening. Unfortunately, these obnoxious little measuring devices work pretty well. Each half would not, in fact, fit through the opening of the doorway. After the tape measure debacle, I scrapped my plans to build the globe in halves in my workshop. I took the frame apart and loaded it into my truck. Fortunately, a generous friend offered me a spot on their property where I could complete my globe project. But first I had to gather a shitload of mountain laurel twigs. That trendy high socks look that I'm sporting is to keep the ticks from crawling up my britches. Mountain laurel is a shrub similar to rhododendron, and it grows in the understory of wooded areas. With the permission of the landowner, you are allowed to harvest it in certain quantities. As far as responsible forest management practices are concerned, most foresters would say that mountain laurel is harmful to a healthy forest because it interferes with the regeneration and new growth of important tree species. That being said, I always try to be selective and leave the healthiest ones behind. This would be the first of many truckloads of this stuff. Now the fun starts with the first twig. Nice. Only 2,743 left to go. I just made that number up, but it's going to be a lot of twigs. This picture documents one single twig being installed. It's also proof that having to move from my workshop to this place was not really that terrible. On the first half of the globe, I decided to work from the top down, which kinda ended up looking like a man's head balding in reverse. On the second half, I worked from the middle out, just to switch it up. The first layer of twigs gets fastened directly to the frame. Subsequent pieces are fastened to each other at multiple points as they get woven into the twig salad. As I layer in the branches, I'm careful to keep the collective thickness as consistent as possible. always keeping the frame as a guide to ensure the overall form is as uniform and spherical as possible. Each piece of the puzzle gets securely screwed down, and each screw has to be pre-drilled to avoid splitting. I use gray epoxy-coated trim head screws because their small heads mostly disappear. As I attach each branch, the overall structure gets stronger. Forgot to count how many screws this project required, but it's without a doubt a world record. Here I'm installing the final twig on the second half of the globe before it gets transported to its final destination. Of course, I have to take a quick moment to celebrate and show off my huge, impressive muscles. It goes without saying that I could have used those muscles to easily lift the globe onto the truck, but we ended up using a machine instead. The globe halves hitched a ride on an automotive transport truck with extra squeaky brakes, and got plenty of confused looks on the highway. I hitched a ride in my truck with my dog chauffeur, Luna. Thankfully, the globe, Luna, and I arrive at the hotel in Connecticut safely. Flipping over the bottom half of the globe frame was a bit nerve-wracking. It involved a combination of a skid loader, some manly manpower, some straps, and a bed of padding for it to fall onto. That square hole in the frame I mentioned before was designed to slide over this pressure-treated 8x8 that's embedded into the concrete pad. Besides a little rocking back and forth, everything went exactly according to plan. At last, the two globe halves are united for the final time. Here you can see how the frame is connected to the anchored 8x8 post. The final step was to fill in around the equator to make it one giant, glorious twiggy sphere. See if you can spot the last space that needs a twig. It's right here. This is the last twig. I'm installing it now. Literally 0 more twigs are needed. It's hard to describe the feeling of satisfaction you get when you install the final piece of a giant puzzle like this. I have created a wide variety of things since I started out as an artist/builder, but I think this 8-foot diameter globe of 100% organic, non-GMO, gluten-free twigs is one of my favorite achievements. Mountain laurel has a natural resistance to rot, so this giant twig ball should be enjoyed by hotel guests and passers-by for years to come. And best of all, I think I made my mom proud of me. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like button. If you want to see other cool stuff being made, don't forget to subscribe to my channel.